When my grandson asked to see his grandma's Facebook page that Sunday night, I didn't think twice. Just handed him the tablet while the wood stove crackled and sleet tapped the windows. The boy's hands were still cold from playing in the snow, and I could smell the diesel on my clothes from morning chores. "What's complicated mean, Grandpa?" I looked over his shoulder. There it was. Vanessa Mercer changed her relationship status to "It's complicated." Posted 6 hours ago, 47 reactions, 23 comments I didn't need to read. I set down my coffee, heard her phone buzzing in the kitchen, over and over. She didn't come out. "Nothing, buddy," I said, just grown-up stuff. I told them I needed to check the fence line. At 8 o'clock, in the dark, nobody questioned it. I'm a farmer, and farmers do strange things. In the barn, I pulled out the insurance file. My handwriting on the beneficiary line, crossed out, hers in its place. Vanessa Kingsley, changed 6 weeks ago. Changed 6 weeks. Kingsley, Todd's last name. I grabbed my flashlight and walked to the back 40. 4 orange survey stakes stood inside my fence line, bright against the snow. That's when I stopped being confused and started counting. The thing about a marriage going bad is you don't usually see it all at once. It's like a fence post rotting from the inside. Looks fine until the day it doesn't. That Sunday morning, before the grandson and the tablet and the status change, I'd set the table for dinner. Pot roast in the slow cooker, the smell filling the whole house. Vanessa came downstairs around 11, said she had a headache, went back up. I heard the shower running, then her hairdryer, then nothing. I found the book later when I went up to get my reading glasses, on her nightstand. The House Flipping Bible, Turn Properties into Profit. Yellow sticky notes bristling from the pages, one marked Exit Strategies, another on a chapter called Valuing Land Parcels. My first wife read murder mysteries. Vanessa read real estate manuals. I didn't say anything. Told myself it was just curiosity. Maybe she was helping someone from church. Maybe it was for that young couple looking to buy the old Henderson place. But I knew. The way you know when the windmill bearing needs oil even before it starts squeaking, you just know. After the grandson left, and I came back from the fence line that night, the house was dark, except for the upstairs bedroom. Her light still on. I stood in the kitchen, insurance papers spread on the table, and I heard her voice through the ceiling, low and sweet, the kind of voice that makes a man lean closer, the way she used to talk to me, 5 years ago, when I was still worth whispering to. Morning came the way it always does in January, cold and mean. I was up at 5:30, coffee percolating in the old pot my first wife bought in 1906. The sound of it was the only company I wanted. Vanessa's car was gone, no note. I didn't expect one anymore. I filled my thermos, pulled on my worn leather gloves, the ones with the hole in the right thumb I keep meaning to fix, and headed out. The air bit my face, and my boots crunched through snow that had crusted over in the night. Breath came out in clouds. The barn smell hit me as I passed. Diesel and old hay and cow manure from Hank's place drifting over. Fence line inspection. I've done it every Monday morning for 37 years. Check the posts, look for wire breaks, make sure the boundaries are clear. A man who doesn't know his boundaries loses more than land. The back 40 sits at the northeast corner of my property. 420 acres total, but that 40-acre parcel is special. Rolling hill, good soil, old homestead foundation from the 1890s. My first wife's daddy gave it to us as a wedding present. We planted a rose bush there. At the corner post. White blooms every June. It's been dead 6 years now. The rose bush and my first wife both. I walked the fence line slow, checking each post. Most were solid. Then I got to the corner where the rose bush used to be. The post was leaning. Not bad, but enough. Needed to be reset. I made a mental note, ran my hand along the wood. That's when I saw them again, in daylight. Those 4 orange survey stakes, each one driven into my ground, about 40 feet inside my property line. Fresh. The plastic still shiny. I heard Hank's truck before I saw it. That old Ford diesel makes a sound like a bucket of bolts rolling downhill. He pulled up beside me, window down, steam coming off his coffee. "Morning, Clay." Hank. He's 72, 3 months older than me by his count, 4 months by mine. We disagree about it every year. He's got a cattle ranch adjacent to my property, and we've been checking each other's fence lines since 1981. He looked at the survey stakes, didn't say anything for a minute, just sipped his coffee. "Saw a truck out here last week," he said finally. "Tuesday and Thursday. Developer plates. County seat registration." That right. Had surveying equipment. Drone too. Fancy setup. I nodded. My jaw was tight. "You selling that parcel, Clay?" Not in this lifetime. He looked at the survey stakes again, then at me, then back at the stakes. The wind picked up, rattling the bare branches of the old oak tree that marked the property corner. Somewhere far off, a crow called. Hank didn't say anything else, didn't need to. He put his truck in gear, gave me a two-finger wave off the steering wheel, and drove off slow. I stood there alone, hand on that leaning fence post, looking at those orange stakes like they were gravestones, and I knew exactly whose name was on them. Tuesday morning, I drove into Clearwater. Population 3,800 on a good day, less when the college kids go home for break. Main Street runs 6 blocks, diner, feed store, bank, hardware, courthouse, and the Dairy Queen that's been closed since 2008. Dottie's Diner sits on the corner, chrome and red vinyl, the kind of place where the coffee's always burnt and nobody minds. I parked my truck in front and walked into the smell of bacon grease and the sound of the radio playing some song about Jesus and pickup trucks. The breakfast crowd was there, usual faces, but the conversation stopped when I walked in, just for a second, then started up again, quieter. I took my booth in the back. The vinyl was cracked and patched with duct tape. Dottie came over with the pot, didn't say a word, just squeezed my shoulder as she poured. Her hand was warm. I hadn't realized how cold I was. 2 tables over, I heard them. Young women from church, Sarah and Amanda, both married to men with office jobs in the county seat. I just think there are 2 sides to every story, Sarah said. Exactly. Maybe she wasn't happy. Maybe he's controlling. I mean, he's what, almost 70? That age gap? She probably feels trapped. She deserves happiness too. I stared at my coffee. The steam rose, and I could see my reflection in it, distorted and old. Ray from the feed store slid into the booth across from me. Didn't ask, just sat down with his own mug. Clay, he said. Ray. You selling? No. He nodded, scratched his gray beard. Heard different. Heard wrong. Good. He stood up, dropped $2 on the table for his coffee. Town's got enough empty farms already. The bell over the door chimed. I looked up. Vanessa walked in. With Todd. He's 47, looks 40. Gym build, the kind that comes from machines instead of work. Clean hands. Hair that costs more than my truck payment. He wore a jacket with the developer company logo on the breast. They didn't see me in the back booth. Or maybe they did and didn't care. I watched them order coffee to go, watched Todd's hand on the small of her back, watched her laugh at something he said, that high laugh she uses when she wants something. Dottie gave them their cups without a word. No smile, no squeeze on the shoulder. They left. I dropped a 5 on the table and followed. The parking lot was gravel and ice. My boots crunched. They were at Todd's truck, one of those big black things with chrome everywhere and tires that have never seen mud. Vanessa. She turned. Her face did something complicated. Surprise, then guilt, then defense, all in the space of a heartbeat. Clay, I didn't know you'd be here. It's Tuesday. I'm always here Tuesday. Todd stepped between us. Not aggressive, just present, marking territory. This is a private conversation, he said. She's my wife. Actually, Vanessa said, voice ice cold, I'm updating our financial strategy. Todd's helping me understand our options. What options? Retirement options, investment strategies, things you've never been interested in discussing. Todd's phone rang. He looked at it, stepped away. I need to take this. He walked toward the street, phone to his ear, and I heard him clear as the morning air. Yeah, no, it's on track. By April 1st, it'll be ours. Back 40-plus mineral rights, 380,000. He doesn't even know about the mineral survey. The world got very quiet. Even the wind stopped. Vanessa was watching me. I looked at her for a long moment. 8 years of marriage. 5 years before that of being alone after my first wife died. 8 years of believing someone wanted to share my life instead of liquidate it. You know what? I said. I need to run an errand. I got in my truck. Didn't speed, didn't peel out, just drove the 3 blocks to the courthouse. The county clerk's office smells like old paper and floor wax. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, the kind that make you feel like you're underwater. My boots left wet prints on the marble floor. Marla was at her desk. She's been county clerk for 20 years, knew my first wife from quilting circle at church. When she saw me, her face fell. Clay, she said. I'm so sorry. Show me. She didn't ask what, just pulled a file from her drawer, laid it on the counter between us. Quiet title action, petitioner, Vanessa Mercer, respondent, Clayton Mercer. Property, parcel, 447B, back 40 acres. Date filed, 6 weeks ago. Response deadline, April 1st. How long have you known? I asked. Since it was filed. I tried to call. You didn't answer. I remembered. 3 calls from a number I didn't recognize. I'd let them go to voicemail. Never checked. There's more, Marla said quietly. She pulled out another page. Mineral rights survey, oil and gas potential. That's why they want it. I stood there holding the papers, and my hands were shaking, not from anger, from something deeper. The fluorescent lights buzzed. Outside, a truck rumbled past. The radiator in the corner hissed and clanked. Marla reached across the counter, put her hand on mine. Clay, you need a lawyer. You have 60 days to respond. Well, 53 now. I folded the papers, put them in my coat pocket. The paper crinkled, loud in the quiet office. Thank you, Marla. I walked out into the cold. The courthouse steps were slick with ice. I stood there, breathing clouds, and pulled out my phone. 3 missed calls, all from the same number. I called it back. Dad? My son's voice. I hadn't heard it in 3 years. Eli, I said, we need to talk. A lawyer contacted me about the back 40, Eli said. Wanted to know about inheritance rights. Mom's name. What's happening? I was still standing on the courthouse steps. The wind cut through my coat, and I could smell the exhaust from the street, mixed with the cold. Your stepmother's trying to sell your grandmother's land. Silence on the other end. Long enough, I thought, the call dropped. The land Grandpa gave you and Mom? That's right. Can she do that? I don't know yet. That's why I'm calling. They contacted you because you're next of kin. If she succeeds, your inheritance goes with it. More silence. Then, I'm in Indianapolis. I can be there in 6 hours. Eli, you don't have to... 6 hours, Dad. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, watching my breath cloud in the air. A car passed, tires crunching on the salt-covered road. The courthouse bell chimed noon, the sound echoing off the brick buildings. My phone buzzed. Text from Hank. Meet me at my barn, now. Hank's barn smells like cattle and hay and 30 years of honest work, the kind of smell you can't fake with money or machines. I found him in his office, a plywood room built into the corner with a space heater and a desk covered in ledgers. He had his laptop open, security camera footage. Thought I was crazy, he said. But I put cameras on my south pasture gate last year after someone stole a calf. They pick up your back 42. He turned the screen toward me. Grainy footage, but clear enough. Todd's black truck, timestamps. Tuesday, January 9th, 2:17 p.m. Thursday, January 11th, 3:43 p.m. Tuesday, January 16th, 1:55 p.m. He's been surveying every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 weeks, Hank said. Drone, ground equipment, the works. I watched the footage. Watched Todd walk my property line with a measuring wheel. Watched him hammer in those orange stakes. How far inside my fence? 40 feet, give or take. I measured it against my own survey. 40 feet. That's not a mistake. That's theft. Hank reached under his desk and pulled out a worn shoebox. The cardboard was soft with age, and when he opened it, the smell of old paper filled the small room. Your granddad and mine did surveying together in '57, he said. Back when this whole valley was getting divided up after the war. They were careful men, kept records. He spread the papers on the desk. Hand-drawn survey maps, property lines marked in pencil and ink, notes in the margins in handwriting I recognized, my grandfather's careful print. This is your back 40, Hank said, pointing. Original boundaries. See this corner marker? Big oak tree, still standing. I leaned in close. The map showed the property line running straight through where that oak tree stood, the same oak tree I'd been standing under that morning, the same oak tree that was 40 feet inside where Todd's survey stakes claimed the line should be. He's trying to steal 40 feet of every boundary, I said. More than that, adds up to about 6 acres total. 6 acres. At current land prices, that's $60,000, maybe $70,000. Plus, the mineral rights Todd thought I didn't know about. The barn door creaked open. Cold air rushed in, and I heard boots on concrete. Heard you boys were having a party. Sheriff Donna. She's been sheriff for 12 years, grew up 3 farms over. Her daddy and mine traded equipment back in the day. She poured herself coffee from Hank's pot without asking. The smell of it, burnt and strong, filled the little office. That's quite a stack of paper, she said, looking at the maps. Todd Kingsley, Hank said, surveying Clay's back 40 without permission. Donna sipped her coffee, made a face. Hank, this coffee could strip paint. Helps me stay awake during calving. She set down the cup and picked up one of the maps, studied it. Her jaw tightened. Todd Kingsley, she said slowly. That name rings a bell. And she pulled out her phone, scrolled. Yeah, 3 easement violations in 2 counties, 1 in Harrison County, 2 in Crawford. All the same pattern: survey encroachment, boundary disputes, mineral rights plays. He ever get charged? I asked. Settled out of court each time, paid the landowners off. She looked at me. This one might stick, though. You got original surveys, security footage, and he filed legal paperwork with false boundaries. That's fraud. The word hung in the air. Fraud. I need a lawyer, I said. You need a good one, Donna replied. This isn't just civil. Could be criminal, too. She finished her coffee, grimacing, handed Hank back the cup. I'll write up a trespass report. Get those camera files to me, Hank. Clay, you keep those maps somewhere safe, and don't confront him yourself. Let the law handle it. She left, boots echoing on concrete, barn door swinging shut behind her. Hank and I sat in the quiet. The space heater clicked and hummed. Cattle lowed in the distance. Your boy coming home? Hank asked. Says he is. Good. You'll need him. I drove home as the sun started to set. The sky was purple and orange, the kind of winter sunset that makes the snow look like it's glowing. My farmhouse was dark, no car in the drive. I sat at the kitchen table with Hank's maps spread in front of me and called the lawyer Marla had recommended, left a message, called Eli. No answer. Then I just sat there in the dark, listening to the furnace rumble and the wind rattle the windows. At 8:17, my phone buzzed. Text from Eli. Dad, a lawyer contacted me about the back 40. What's happening? I typed back, already handled. When can you get here? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Tomorrow morning. Don't do anything stupid before I get there. I smiled. First time in days. Define stupid. You know what I mean. I did. Wednesday evening, I heard her car in the drive. The sound of it, that smooth engine purr she'd bought with money from her last bonus, made my chest tight. I was at the kitchen table. Maps rolled up, insurance papers in a folder, coffee cold in the cup. She came in carrying boxes, the cardboard kind you get at the liquor store, with handles cut in the sides. She set them down in the entryway without looking at me. We need to talk, she said. I know. Pastor Eugene called me. He suggested mediation. I nodded. Didn't trust my voice yet. She sat down across from me. Her perfume, the new one, the expensive one, filled the space between us. It smelled like flowers I couldn't name. My first wife wore something called White Shoulders, $5 a bottle at the drugstore. I could still smell it if I thought hard enough. Clay, Vanessa said. Her voice was measured, practiced. I need you to understand something. I'm listening. You're 68 years old. The words landed like stones. I've watched you struggle, she continued. Getting out of bed, lifting bales. You can barely start the tractor in winter. Last month you threw your back out fixing the barn door. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're aging, and you're too proud to see it. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was 52, hair colored to hide the gray, skin smooth from creams that came in tiny jars. She looked like someone who was running from something. What's this about? I asked. She pulled out her phone, opened a spreadsheet, turned it toward me. I've done the math. We sell the back 40 to Todd for $380,000. The mineral rights alone are worth another 100. We downsize, buy a condo in town. You live another 10, maybe 15 years comfortably. No more killing yourself on land you can't maintain. The furnace kicked on. The sound of it filled the silence. Or, she said, you keep this place. Keep pretending you're 40, and I watch you work yourself to death for dirt. That dirt, I said slowly, is my family's legacy. It's a liability. It's my son's inheritance. Your son left 20 years ago and never looked back. He doesn't want this farm, Clay. He wants a 401k and a dental plan. I felt something crack inside me, small but deep. And you? I asked. What do you want? She closed her phone, stood up. Security, a future, something that isn't held together by duct tape and stubbornness. She picked up her boxes and carried them upstairs. I heard her moving around, opening drawers, the sound of hangers scraping. I sat there until the coffee cup left a ring on the table. Sunday morning came gray and cold. Not winter anymore, but not spring either. That in-between time when everything's brown and the world smells like thaw and mud. I got to church early, parked in my usual spot. The building's white clapboard, steeple pointing up like it's trying to tell God where we are. I've been coming here for 43 years. baptized Eli in that building, buried my first wife from it. Pastor Eugene found me before the service. He's 60, soft-spoken, the kind of man who thinks everyone can be reasoned with. "Clay," he said, "I'm glad you came. Wouldn't miss it." I spoke with Vanessa. She's struggling. We all are. He put his hand on my shoulder. It felt heavy. The Lord calls us to forgive, to seek peace. He also calls us to protect what's ours. Eugene sighed. "I'll be praying for both of you." The service was the usual. Hymns I knew by heart. A sermon about reconciliation I tried to listen to. Vanessa sat on the other side, 3 rows up. I could see the back of her head. She didn't turn around. When Eugene prayed, really prayed, the kind where he closes his eyes and grips the pulpit, he said something about families in transition and God's will in difficult times. I felt eyes on me, lots of them. The parking lot afterward was gravel and mud, ice melting in patches, dirty snow piled along the fence. Cars started up, exhaust clouding in the cold air. I walked to my truck slow. Hank was there, leaning against his Ford. Ray from the feed store, Marla, Dottie from the diner, the older folks, the ones who remembered my first wife, who'd helped me plant her rose bush on the back 40. On the other side of the lot, Vanessa stood with a group of younger women, Sarah and Amanda, Melissa who runs the hair salon, Todd's sister. They were talking, voices low, but not low enough. "Can't imagine being trapped. He's from a different generation. She deserves to be happy," Sarah's voice carried. "Maybe if he'd supported her dreams instead of trapping her on that farm." The words hung in the air. A crow called from the church steeple. The wind picked up, rattling the chain-link fence. Hank moved like he was going to say something. I put my hand on his arm. "Leave it," I said. But Vanessa turned, looked right at me, and for a second, just a second, I saw something in her face. Not anger, not defiance, pity. She got in her car. Todd was waiting for her. His black truck gleamed even in the gray light. They drove off together. I walked to my truck, found a note under the windshield wiper. The paper was damp from melted frost. "She deserves better." "Move on, old man." No signature. The handwriting was printed. Careful. Could have been anyone. I folded it, put it in my pocket, drove home alone. The house was different. I felt it the second I opened the door. Empty. Not just quiet. Empty. The kind of empty that has weight. Her clothes were gone from the closet, her books from the shelf, the coffee maker, the fancy one with the timer she'd bought last year, gone from the counter. I walked through the rooms like a stranger. Every missing thing was a small cut. Her shoes by the door, her jacket on the hook, the throw pillows she'd bought that I always said were too fussy. All gone. In the living room, on the coffee table, she'd left something, the wedding album. It was open to a photograph, but not from our wedding. From my first wedding. Me and Sarah, my first wife, standing on the courthouse steps, young and stupid and hopeful, her in a simple white dress, me in my good suit that I'd borrowed from my father. Behind us, you could see the back 40 in the distance. The rose bush Sarah's daddy had given us wasn't planted yet, but you could see where it would go. I stood there holding that album. The house creaked around me. The furnace rumbled. Outside, I heard the windmill squeak. The bearing I still hadn't oiled. The light was fading. That winter light that makes everything look like it's already a memory. I sat down on the couch, put my head in my hands, and for the first time in 8 years, in this house I'd shared with Vanessa, I let myself remember what it felt like to be loved by someone who wanted the farm, not despite what it was, but because of it. The album stayed open on my lap, and the house stayed empty. My phone buzzed, text from Eli. "On my way, be there by midnight." I typed back, "Drive safe." Then I sat in the dark and waited for my son to come home. I didn't sleep, just sat in the living room with the album, turning pages, Sarah smiling on our honeymoon at Lake Michigan, Sarah pregnant with Eli, Sarah holding him on the porch of this house, Sarah planting that rose bush on the back 40, dirt under her nails, sun in her hair. Around 3 in the morning, I went up to the attic, pulled the chain for the light. It swung back and forth, shadows moving across the rafters. The air was cold and smelled like old wood and insulation. I found the boxes in the corner, Sarah's things, the ones I'd packed after she died and couldn't bear to look at, clothes I'd donated, jewelry I'd given to Eli for his future wife, the one he never brought home. But I'd kept the photo albums, all of them. I brought them down to the kitchen, made fresh coffee. The sound of it percolating was the only noise in the house, except for the wind outside and the creak of the building settling, one album in particular. The year we got the back 40, Sarah's father, John was his name, had given it to us on our 5th anniversary. 40 acres with a view of the valley and an old homestead foundation from the 1890s. There was a photo of the three of us. Me, Sarah, and John, standing at the corner post, the one that's leaning now. John was holding a rosebush, roots wrapped in burlap. White blooms, he'd said. Plant it deep, water it regular. It'll outlive all of us. We'd planted it that afternoon, Sarah's hands in the dirt, laughing because I kept hitting rocks with the shovel. The smell of turned earth and spring air. The sound of robins singing in the old oak tree. She died 6 years later. Cancer that came fast and mean. The rosebush bloomed for 3 more years after that, then stopped, just dried up one summer, like it knew. I traced my finger over the photograph, Sarah's face young and bright and full of tomorrow. The phone rang, 4 in the morning. I didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. Mr. Mercer, this is David Chen. Marla Jensen referred you. I understand you need legal representation. His voice was young but steady. I could hear traffic in the background. I need to file a response to a quiet title action, I said, and look into insurance fraud. Can you come to my office tomorrow? I'm in Bloomington. I have a 10 o'clock open. I'll be there. Bring everything, deeds, insurance documents, survey maps, anything related to the property. After I hung up, I made another pot of coffee, stood at the kitchen window watching the sky turn from black to gray. The temperature was rising. I could feel it. The ice on the eaves was dripping. The snow in the yard had shrunk back from the driveway, leaving mud and last year's dead grass. Transition time. Not winter, not spring, just waiting. Eli's truck pulled in around 12:30 that afternoon. Not midnight like he'd said. He must have left Indianapolis before dawn. I watched him get out. 45 years old, gray in his beard that wasn't there last time I saw him. Wearing a jacket too thin for the weather and shoes that would be ruined in the mud. He stood there for a moment, looking at the house, then at the barn, then at me standing on the porch. "Dad," he said. "Son." We didn't hug. We're not those kind of people. But I saw his eyes scan me, checking, making sure I was still whole. "Coffee?" I asked. "Please." Inside, he looked around, noticed the empty spaces where Vanessa's things had been. "She really gone?" "She is." He sat at the kitchen table. Same table where I'd sat as a boy, same table where he'd done his homework before deciding farming wasn't for him. I poured him coffee in Sarah's old mug, the one that said "World's Best Mom" that he'd bought her at a school fundraiser. He held it, didn't drink, just held it. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. The Facebook status, the insurance papers, the survey stakes, the quiet title filing, the mineral rights, Todd and Vanessa's plan, the deadline. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he set down the mug. "The back 40, he said. "That was Grandpa John's. Wedding present to your mother and me." I remember the rosebush. Mom used to take me there. Let me help her prune it. I didn't know that. In 20 years of him being gone, I'd never asked what he remembered. "It died," I said, "after she did." Eli nodded, stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the mud was brown and the sky was starting to clear, a patch of blue showing through. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "Leaving like I did, never calling. I thought I was better than this place. You wanted something different, nothing wrong with that. But I never told you why." He turned. "I left because I couldn't stand watching you after Mom died. You were a ghost, and I was angry at you for not fighting to stay alive, for just existing." The words sat between us. "Then you married Vanessa," he continued. "And I was angry about that too. Felt like you were replacing Mom, so I stayed away." "I married her because I was lonely," I said. "And that was my mistake, not yours." "No." He shook his head. "My mistake was not being here, not checking in, not asking if you were okay." The coffee pot beeped. The furnace clicked on. Outside, water dripped from the eaves. "I'm here now," Eli said. "What do you need?" I pulled out the lawyer's card, the survey maps, the album with the photograph of Sarah and the rosebush. "I need to save that land," I said. "Not for me, for you, for your kids someday, if you have them. That's what your grandfather wanted, what your mother wanted." Eli looked at the photograph. His face did something complicated. "Okay," he said. "Then that's what we'll do." He pulled out his phone, started typing. "I'm taking leave from work, 2 months. That get us to April?" And past it. "Good." He looked up. "And Dad, when this is over, I want to learn. The fence lines, the equipment, all of it. The things you tried to teach me and I was too stupid to pay attention to. Something loosened in my chest. Not hope, not yet, but something close to it. First thing, I said, we call that lawyer, then we go look at the fence line. That corner post is leaning, needs to be reset. When? After we win, Eli smiled. It was small, but it was there. When do we see the lawyer? Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Bloomington. I'll drive. That night, we ordered pizza, ate it out of the box at the kitchen table, like we used to when he was in high school and Sarah was still alive. Didn't talk much, just ate and listened to the wind and the house creaking and the sound of ice melting off the roof. Around 9, I went upstairs, pulled out the old photograph of Sarah at the rosebush, put it in my wallet, right behind my driver's license. If I was going to fight for that land, I wanted her with me. The lawyer's office was in a strip mall between a Chinese restaurant and a tax preparation place. David Chen was 35, maybe 40, wore glasses and a tie that had seen better days. His office smelled like old carpet and the jasmine tea he kept in a thermos on his desk. He spread our documents across a folding table, studied them for 20 minutes while Eli and I sat in plastic chairs and waited. Okay, he said finally. The quiet title action is defensible. You have original surveys, continuous use documentation, tax records, showing you've paid on that parcel for 40 years. The insurance beneficiary change is trickier. Without proof of forgery or coercion, it's technically legal. She's your spouse. She had access. But she changed my signature. I said, can you prove that? I couldn't. Chen leaned back. Here's what I recommend. We file a response to the quiet title. We request a survey review. We push back hard on their boundaries. As for the insurance, we can file a fraud complaint with the company, but it's a long shot. What about the mineral rights? Eli asked. Those transfer with the land. If she succeeds in the quiet title, Todd gets everything. The jasmine smell was making me queasy. Or maybe it was the fluorescent lights, or the sound of traffic outside. How much is this going to cost? I asked. Chen named a number. It was high, but not as high as losing the land. File everything, I said, whatever it takes. We drove home through rain, cold rain that wasn't quite snow but wanted to be. The windshield wipers squeaked, and the truck heater struggled against the damp. You okay? Eli asked. Fine. That's a lot of money, Dad. It's less than the land's worth. He didn't argue. We drove past fields of corn stubble, fence lines marking boundaries people had fought over for generations. The radio played something about love and loss. I turned it off. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. This is Kingsley Development. We have a cease and desist order for Clayton Mercer. Speaking. You're trespassing on disputed property. If you continue to access parcel 447B, we will pursue legal action. I pulled the truck over. Rain drummed on the roof. That's my land, I said. That's under legal review. Until the court decides, you need to stay off it. Who is this? Todd Kingsley. The line went dead. Eli was watching me. What was that? They're trying to keep me off my own property. Can they do that? They can try. I pulled back onto the road, drove straight to the back 40. Todd's truck was there, parked right at the fence line. He was standing next to it with a clipboard, talking to someone in a suit. When he saw us, he smiled. That smile made me understand things about violence I'd never understood before. Mr. Mercer, he said, I believe you received our call. I did. Then you know you're trespassing. On my own land. Disputed land. There's a difference. The man in the suit stepped forward. Mr. Mercer, I'm counsel for Kingsley Development. If you don't leave, we'll file harassment charges. Eli got out of the truck, stood next to me, said nothing, just stood there. Todd's smile slipped a little. This is going to end badly for you, Todd said. You're fighting a losing battle. That land's worth more than your pride, old man. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the expensive watch, the clean hands, the confidence that comes from never having to dig post holes in frozen ground. Then why are you so nervous? I asked. His jaw tightened. My phone rang. Vanessa, I answered. What the hell are you doing? Her voice was shrill, panicked. You talked to our insurance agent? You filed a fraud complaint? Are you trying to ruin my credit? I'm trying to protect what's mine. It's ours, Clay, community property. But you're so stubborn you can't see. I see fine. I see you trying to steal land from my son, land your father gave us. My father's dead, And that land is sitting there doing nothing while you play farmer at almost 70. I hung up, turned on the recorder app, called her back. She answered immediately. Don't you dare hang up on me. Tell me about the mineral rights, I said. Silence. Tell me about the oil and gas survey Todd ran without my permission. That's not relevant. Tell me why you changed the insurance beneficiary to Vanessa Kingsley. That's not your name. It will be, after the divorce. The rain came harder. Todd was watching me from his truck. Eli stood steady beside me, getting soaked. You planned this, I said quietly. All of it. I planned for us to have a future instead of you dying on a tractor. You planned to take everything I had and sell it to him. She didn't deny it. I ended the call, saved the recording. Todd was getting in his truck. You'll hear from my lawyer, he called. Looking forward to it, I said. They drove off, tires spitting mud. Eli and I stood in the rain. I walked to the corner post, the one that was leaning, put my hand on it. The wood was wet and cold, rotting from the inside, just like I'd thought. We'll fix it, Eli said. After, I agreed. My phone rang again. Marla. Clay, I found something. You need to come to the courthouse now. It's pouring rain. Now, Clay. The courthouse was empty except for Marla. She had a file spread on the counter. Old documents, some of them brown with age. The ink faded. I went back, she said. All the way back. To when this valley was first surveyed after the war. Your grandfather and Hank's grandfather did the original work. She pulled out a document. The paper was thick, official. The handwriting was careful and clear. This is the original deed, 1957, the year your grandfather bought the land. I leaned in, read the words. Easement covenant, this parcel, 4 4/7 B, 40 acres, shall not be subdivided, sold separately, or developed for commercial use for a period of 99 years from this date, to preserve family unity and agricultural heritage. Said covenant is binding on all future owners and transfers with the property. Dated April 3, 1957. Signed, Robert Mercer. Witnessed, Harold Pruitt, my grandfather, Hank's grandfather. What does this mean? Eli asked. Marla looked at me. It means Todd can't develop it, can't subdivide it, can't do anything commercial with it until 2056. The covenant is recorded. It's legally binding. The courthouse was quiet. The radiator hissed and clanked. Outside, the rain had stopped. I could see through the window, the sky clearing, a patch of blue. Does Vanessa know about this, Atem? I asked. Not unless she pulled the original deed. And why would she? She filed based on recent surveys and tax records. Eli started laughing, not loud, just a quiet chuckle that grew. Grandpa saved us from 60 years in the future, he said. I thought about my grandfather, Robert Mercer, the man who taught me to check fence posts every morning, who said a handshake was a contract and your word was your bond, who planted that covenant like a seed, knowing someday it might matter. We need to tell Chen, I said. Already called him, Marla said. He's filing an amended response tomorrow. This covenant kills their entire plan. My phone buzzed. Text from Hank. Found something else. Todd never filed environmental impact study, required for commercial zoning. He's been cutting corners. I showed Marla. That's a state violation, she said. If he's been surveying and planning development without proper permits, he's in trouble, I finished. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than dread. We walked out into the cold afternoon. The rain had left everything clean and sharp. The air smelled like wet asphalt and coming spring. Mud season was starting, the world brown and soft and waiting. Dad, Eli said, we're going to win this. Maybe. No, we are. Because Grandpa made sure of it 40 years before you were born. I touched the photograph in my wallet. Sarah at the rosebush, her father John standing next to her, both of them gone now. But the land's still here, the covenant's still here, the boundary's still here. A fence is only as strong as its weakest post. But sometimes the posts you can't see are the strongest ones of all. Pastor Eugene showed up on a Thursday evening. I was in the barn, working on the tractor. Spring planting was 6 weeks out, and the engine had been giving me trouble all winter. The smell of diesel and grease filled the space, and I could hear the rain starting on the tin roof, a soft patter that would turn heavy before long. Clay? I looked up. Eugene stood in the doorway, collar visible under his jacket. His car was parked in the drive, and he was already wet from the short walk. Pastor, Thought I'd stop by, see how you're doing. I wiped my hands on a rag. I'm fine. That's what everyone says. He came in, careful around the oil puddles on the concrete floor. Mind if we talk? We sat on hay bales near the open door. The rain came harder now, drumming on the roof, that sound that makes a barn feel like the only safe place in the world. The air smelled like wet earth and old hay and the coffee I'd left on the workbench. Eugene was quiet for a long time, just sat there, watching the rain. What do you want, Clay? He asked finally. Really want? In your heart? My land, my insurance policy fixed, my life back. That's what you're fighting for, but what do you want? I didn't answer. Because from where I'm sitting, he continued, this looks like it's becoming about more than land. It's becoming about making her pay. The words hung between us. The rain filled the silence. She tried to steal from my son, I said. From my first wife's memory. From everything I built. I know. She lied to me for months, changed legal documents, planned it all with another man. I know that too. So what am I supposed to do? Forgive her? Let her walk away? Eugene looked at me. His eyes were kind but firm. I'm not saying let her walk away. Justice and forgiveness aren't opposites. You can pursue what's right and still release the anger. I don't want to release it. I want her to hurt the way I'm hurting. There it was, the truth, bare and ugly. Eugene nodded slowly. That's human. That's natural, but it's not holy. Maybe I'm not interested in holy right now. Maybe not, but you're interested in your son, and he's watching how you handle this. That landed differently. I thought about Eli, about him taking leave from work, about him wanting to learn the fence lines and the equipment, about him coming home not for the land, but for me. What would your first wife say? Eugene asked quietly. I closed my eyes, heard Sarah's voice in my memory, clear as if she were standing there. The land doesn't care who owns it, Clay. It just wants someone who'll care for it. She'd said that once, years ago, when our neighbor had died and his kids immediately sold the farm to developers. She'd been sad about it, but not angry, just sad. She'd tell me the land doesn't belong to me, I said. I just take care of it for a while. And she'd be right. The rain eased, dripping now from the eaves, steady and rhythmic. I don't know how to not be angry, I admitted. You don't have to stop being angry. You just have to stop letting it drive the car. Eugene stood, brushed hay from his pants. Fight for what's right. Protect your family. But don't become someone your son won't recognize. After he left, I sat in the barn until dark, listened to the rain and the dripping and the wind, thought about Sarah, about Eli, about what I was really fighting for. My phone buzzed. Text from Vanessa. We need to talk about the divorce settlement. Todd's lawyer says we can avoid court if you're reasonable. I didn't reply. Another text. I never wanted it to be like this. I turned off the phone. Friday morning, Chen called. Conference call with me and Eli in the truck, driving back from the feed store. Mediation is set, Chen said. March 28th, 3 days before the deadline. All parties required, you, Vanessa, Todd, representatives from the insurance company, county mediator, will oversee. What do we need to bring? I asked. Everything. Surveys, covenant, photographs, Hank's security footage. I want to bury them in documentation. What are our chances? With the covenant, 90%. Without it, 50-50. The insurance fraud is harder to prove, but the recording you made helps. After the call, Eli drove in silence for a while. The fields were brown, mud showing through the last patches of snow. A few brave robins hopped in the ditches, looking for worms. Spring was coming, slow but certain. You think she'll show? Eli asked. She has to. Court order. I meant, do you think she'll really face you? I didn't know. We pulled into the farm. Hank's truck was there, and he was standing at the fence line with someone I didn't recognize at first. Then I did. Sheriff Donna. They serving papers? Eli asked, worried. Don't think so. We got out, walked over. Clay, Donna said. Got an update. Todd Kingsley's development license is under review. State found 6 violations across 3 counties. Environmental permits, boundary surveys, mineral rights claims. He's in deep trouble. How deep? License suspension minimum, possible fraud charges if they find willful deception. Hank grinned. That covenant did more than save your land. It opened a whole investigation into his business practices. I felt something complex. Not quite satisfaction, not quite guilt, somewhere between. He brought it on himself, Donna said, reading my face. You didn't do this to him. His shortcuts did. After she left, Hank and I walked the fence line. Eli followed, quiet, learning. The ground was soft, mud sucking at our boots. The air smelled like thaw and manure and the promise of rain, cold rain, the kind that makes you feel it in your bones. We stopped at the corner post, the leaning one. I put my hand on it, felt it shift under pressure. This was the first post your grandfather set, I told Eli. 1957, same day he filed that covenant. Your grandmother, my mother, held the post while he tamped the dirt. Mom planted the rosebush here, Eli said. Her father's last gift to us before he died. White blooms. They came every June for years. Until Mom passed. Until then. We stood there, 3 generations of fence checking, looking at a post that needed to be reset and a rosebush that needed to be replanted. After the mediation, Eli said, we fix this. You, me, and Hank. We do it right. It's hard work. Post hole digger in March mud. I know. Teach me. Hank cleared his throat. I'll bring the tools. Got a cedar post seasoning in my barn. Your grandfather would have wanted cedar. The wind picked up, cold but not bitter, the smell of rain coming. I looked across the back 40, rolling hill, good soil, the old oak tree marking the corner, the land my grandfather protected. My first wife loved. My son was learning to value. Deal, I said. That night, Eli made dinner, hamburgers on the stove, the smell of onions and grease filling the kitchen. We ate at the table, same table where 4 generations had eaten. The radio played low, farm report, weather, grain futures. Tell me about Grandpa Robert, Eli said. So I did. Told him about Robert Mercer, who'd survived the Depression and World War II and came home to farm. Who'd taught me that a handshake meant something and your word was your bond. Who'd checked every fence post every Monday morning, rain or shine, until the day he died. He planted that covenant, I said, because he'd seen what happened when families fought over land. His own father and uncle stopped speaking over a property line dispute. Robert swore he'd never let that happen to us. But it did. I left. You came back. Eli set down his burger. I left because I was angry. At you, at farming, at the idea that this was all there was. I wanted something bigger. Did you find it? He thought about that. I found something different. Not bigger, just different. He looked around the kitchen. Took me 20 years to realize different isn't always better. You've got a life in Indianapolis. A career. I've got a job. That's not the same thing. He stood, walked to the window. Outside, night was falling, the last light purple on the horizon. I'm thinking about staying, after this is settled. Not forever, maybe, but for a while. Learn what I should have learned 20 years ago. My throat was tight. You don't have to. I want to. He turned. I spent 2 decades avoiding this place because it reminded me of losing Mom. But that was stupid. This place is Mom. It's Grandpa Robert. It's you. It's me, whether I wanted to admit it or not. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. The wind rattled the windows. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay, I'd like that. We finished dinner, washed dishes together. Eli's hands in soapy water, mine with the towel, drying. A simple thing. Domestic. The kind of thing fathers and sons are supposed to do, but often don't. Later, I stood on the porch with coffee. The sky was clear now, stars visible despite the yard light. Cold, but not freezing. That edge between winter and spring where anything could happen. My phone buzzed. Chen, mediation confirmed. 9 a.m., March 28th, County Courthouse. Bring Eli and Hank as witnesses. This is it. I texted back, we'll be ready. Inside, I heard Eli moving around upstairs, settling into his old room, home. I thought about Pastor Eugene's question. What did I really want? I wanted the land safe, the fence fixed, the covenant honored, my son home. The rosebush replanted. I wanted to wake up every morning and check the fence posts and know that I was taking care of something bigger than myself. I wanted to be the kind of man my grandfather was, the kind Sarah loved, the kind Eli could respect. Revenge? Making Vanessa hurt? That was starting to feel small. Like fighting over scraps when you could have the whole meal. The stars turned overhead, the windmill creaked in the distance. Somewhere far off, a coyote called. 3 more days until mediation. 3 more days until we found out if a covenant planted 68 years ago could save a family today. I went inside, locked the door, checked it twice, the way I always did, and for the first time in months, I slept without waking. The county courthouse mediation room smelled like floor wax and old radiators, long table, folding chairs, fluorescent lights that buzzed and flickered. The windows looked out on Main Street, where morning light cut through the trees just starting to bud. We got there early, me, Eli, Hank, and Chen. The mediator was already there, a woman named Patricia Reeves, 60-something, reading glasses on a chain. She'd done land disputes for 30 years, and her face said she'd seen everything twice. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "we'll start at 9 sharp. All parties are required to be present." At 8:55, Vanessa arrived, with Todd and 2 lawyers I didn't recognize. She looked older, thinner. Her makeup couldn't hide the shadows under her eyes. She didn't look at me, just took her seat on the opposite side of the table. Todd wore a suit, expensive. His hands were folded on the table, and he had that smile, the one that said he owned the room before the meeting even started. At 9 exactly, a woman in a blazer entered. Insurance investigator. She nodded to Patricia and sat at the end of the table with her own folder. "Let's begin," Patricia said. She went through the formalities. Quiet title action, parcel 447B, competing surveys, insurance beneficiary dispute. Her voice was flat, professional, the kind that had done this 1,000 times. "Mr. Mercer, your attorney has filed a response. Let's start there." Chen opened his folder, pulled out the first document. Original survey, 1957, conducted by Robert Mercer and Harold Pruitt, shows clear boundaries for parcel 447B. He slid it across the table. Patricia studied it. Todd's lawyer leaned in. "This is outdated," the lawyer said. "Modern surveying equipment is far more accurate." "Modern surveys that showed up 6 weeks ago," Chen replied. "After 40 years of Mr. Mercer paying taxes on the original boundaries, after 40 years of continuous use, after 40 years of no dispute." He pulled out the next document, Hank's security footage, printed stills with timestamps. "This shows Mr. Kingsley's repeated trespass on the property, surveying equipment, drone flyovers, all without permission, all 40 feet inside the established fence line." Todd shifted in his chair. His lawyer whispered something to him. "That fence line," the lawyer said, "is exactly what's in dispute. You can't use a fence to prove a boundary." "You can," Chen said, "when that fence has been there for 47 years, when neighboring properties all recognize it, when county records show it." He looked at Hank. "Mr. Pruitt, your property shares a boundary with the Mercer farm. Where is that boundary?" "At the fence line," Hank said. "Same place it's been since my father and Clay's father set it in 1957. We've got photos going back decades. That corner post marks the property line. Always has." Patricia made notes. The radiator hissed and clanked. Outside, a truck rumbled past. "Ms. Mercer," Patricia said, turning to Vanessa, "you filed this quiet title action. On what basis?" Vanessa's lawyer answered, "On the basis of more accurate surveying and the fact that the property is marital property, Mrs. Mercer has every right to pursue its best use." "Its best use," I said quietly. Everyone looked at me. "Its best use," I repeated. "Being sold to him." I nodded at Todd. "For mineral rights development, oil and gas speculation." Todd's face went carefully blank. "That's a business opportunity," his lawyer said quickly, "not relevant to the boundary dispute." "It's extremely relevant," Chen said, "because Mr. Kingsley has a financial interest in moving that boundary. 6 acres of additional land at current prices is approximately $70,000, plus mineral rights." He pulled out another document. "Environmental impact study, required by state law for any mineral rights development. Mr. Kingsley never filed one." Todd's lawyer started to object. Patricia held up her hand. "Let him finish." "Mr. Kingsley has 3 prior boundary violations in 2 other counties, Harrison and Crawford. All the same pattern: survey encroachment, false boundaries, pressure on elderly landowners, all settled quietly out of court." Patricia looked at Todd. "Is this accurate?" "Those were legitimate disputes," Todd said. His voice was tight. "Resolved through proper legal channels." "Paid off before anyone looked too close," Hank muttered. Todd's jaw clenched. Chen pulled out the final document, the one that mattered. "And now," he said, "the covenant." He slid it across the table. The paper was old, protected in a plastic sleeve. The handwriting was careful and clear. Robert Mercer's signature at the bottom. Patricia picked it up, Read it. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her shoulders shift. "This is a recorded covenant," she said. "Filed April 3rd, 1957, Chen confirmed. "It states that parcel 447B cannot be subdivided, sold separately, or developed for commercial use for 99 years, until 2056. It's binding on all future owners and transfers with the property." The room went very quiet. Todd's lawyer grabbed the document. "Read it." His face paled. This can't be binding." "It absolutely is," Patricia said. "A recorded covenant runs with the land. It doesn't matter who owns it." She looked at Todd. "Mr. Kingsley, even if this boundary dispute went your way, which it won't, you couldn't develop this land for commercial purposes. Not for another 31 years. Todd stared at the paper. His hands were shaking slightly. All that surveying, all that planning, all that money spent on lawyers and environmental surveys that were never filed, for nothing. Vanessa put her face in her hands. "There's more," the insurance investigator said. Everyone turned. She opened her folder. "Beneficiary change on Mr. Mercer's agricultural policy. Filed 8 weeks ago. Signature analysis shows inconsistencies with Mr. Mercer's signature on file." She pulled out 2 documents side by side. My signature from when I'd opened the policy, the signature on the beneficiary change form. These were not written by the same hand. Vanessa's head snapped up. "I had his permission." "Did you?" the investigator asked. "Because Mr. Mercer has filed a formal fraud complaint and we have video footage from the bank showing you photographing his driver's license without his knowledge." I needed it for forging his signature," Chen said quietly. "Which is insurance fraud. A felony." The air went out of the room. Patricia closed her folder. "Based on the evidence presented, I'm ruling as follows. The quiet title action is denied. The original 1957 boundaries stand. The covenant is valid and binding. The insurance beneficiary change is void pending criminal investigation." She looked at Todd. "Mr. Kingsley, I'm recommending your business practices be reviewed by the state licensing board." She looked at Vanessa. "Mrs. Mercer, you should retain separate criminal counsel." Patricia stood. "This mediation is concluded." In the hallway after, Vanessa caught my arm. Todd was gone, out the door fast, his lawyers trailing behind. "Clay," she whispered. Her eyes were red. "I just wanted security. I came from nothing. Nothing. I couldn't go back to that." I looked at her. This woman I'd married because I was lonely. This woman who'd tried to take everything because she was scared. "So you tried to take everything," I said. She had no answer. "The divorce papers," I said. "You can have the house equity, split it fair, but the land stays with Eli." "I know. And you need to make this right with the insurance company." She nodded, tears running down her face now. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry." I didn't forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I didn't feel the rage anymore either. Just tired. Just done. "Goodbye, Vanessa." I walked away. Eli and Hank were waiting by the truck. The morning was warming, the smell of spring rain coming. Robins in the courthouse lawn, pulling worms from the soft ground. "We won," Eli said. We did. So why don't you look happy?" I thought about that. About winning. About what it cost and what it saved. "Because winning isn't the same as being whole," I said. "But it's a start." We drove home. The fields were brown and waiting, planting season coming. The back 40 rolling in the distance, that corner post still leaning, still waiting to be fixed. The following week, things moved fast. Vanessa moved out permanently. Not back to the farmhouse. She stayed with her sister 2 counties over. The divorce papers came through her lawyer. Fair split of the house equity, like I'd said. She kept her car, her retirement account. I kept the land, all of it. Todd's developer license was suspended pending investigation. The state found violations going back 8 years. Boundary fraud, environmental permit violations, mineral rights manipulation. His business folded within 2 weeks. Last I heard, he was facing charges in 3 counties. The insurance company voided the beneficiary change. My policy was restored. They offered Vanessa a settlement to avoid prosecution, full restitution plus penalties. She took it. No criminal charges filed, but her name was flagged in the system. I didn't feel triumphant about any of it, just tired and ready to move forward. Tuesday morning, I walked into Dottie's diner. The breakfast crowd was there. Same faces, same coffee, same smell of bacon grease and burnt toast. But this time, when I came in, Ray stood up, started clapping, then Dottie, then Hank, then the whole damn diner. I stood there, face hot, not knowing what to do with my hands. "Sit down," Dottie said, grinning. She poured my coffee without asking. "Breakfast is on the house, and don't you dare argue." Ray slid into the booth across from me. "Never doubted you, Clay." "Liar," I said. He laughed. "Okay, maybe a little. But I'm glad you fought." All morning, people stopped by, shook my hand, told me stories about their own boundary disputes, their own family land struggles, told me my grandfather would have been proud. I believed them. That afternoon, Eli found me in the barn. I was oiling the post hole digger, the old manual kind that requires muscle and stubbornness in equal measure. "When do we fix the fence?" he asked. I looked at him. "Now's as good a time as any." We loaded the truck. Post hole digger, tamping bar, shovel, new cedar post from Hank's barn. The tools clanked in the bed, and I could smell the fresh cut cedar even through the diesel exhaust. The drive to the back 40 was quiet. The fields were brown, but showing green at the edges. The air was warm, really warm for the first time since October. The smell of thawing earth filled the cab, rich and promising. We parked at the fence line. The old corner post stood crooked, like it had been waiting for us. "First thing," I said, "we dig out the old post. Goes down 3 feet, rock bar if we hit stone." "Show me." So I did. Showed him how to work the post hole digger, how to lift and twist and pull. The ground was soft from the thaw, mud season soft, and the digger sank easier than it would have in summer. Eli took over, worked steady, breath coming hard, sweat on his forehead despite the cool air. He had his mother's determination, her refusal to quit. We pulled the old post, rotten at the base, just like I'd thought, set it aside. "New post goes in deeper," I said. 4 feet for a corner, that's the one that takes the strain." We dug together, father and son side by side, the post hole getting deeper with every lift. My back ached, my hands hurt. I felt every one of my 68 years, and I'd never felt better. When the hole was ready, we set the cedar post. Eli held it level while I tamped the dirt, packed it tight, checking the plumb line every few inches. "Now the rosebush," I said. I'd brought a cutting from Marla. She'd kept one alive from the original, propagated from a branch she'd taken years ago when she and Sarah were in quilting circle together. White blooms, the same. We planted it at the base of the post. Eli's hands in the dirt, patting it down gentle. "Mom would have liked this," he said quietly. "She would have loved it." A truck engine rumbled up the hill. Hank's Ford, unmistakable. He parked and got out carrying a thermos and 3 tin cups. "Thought you boys might want coffee," he said. We stood there, 3 men at a fence line, drinking burnt coffee from tin cups. The sun was warm on our necks. A robin sang from the oak tree. The new fence wire hummed in the wind, that high singing sound that means it's strung tight and true. "What did Grandpa say?" Eli asked, "when he planted this fence?" I smiled. Heard Robert Mercer's voice in my memory, rough and sure. He said, "A fence is only as strong as its weakest post, but a good man checks his posts every morning." Eli nodded, looked at the new post standing straight and true, looked at the rosebush, small but alive, looked at the land, rolling away toward the horizon. "Then I guess I better start checking," he said. "People ask if I forgive her. Truth is, forgiveness isn't a switch you flip, it's a fence post you reset, one morning at a time." She wanted security. I understand that. Her mistake was thinking security comes from selling something instead of tending it. She looked at 40 acres and saw $400,000. I looked at it and saw 4 generations. We're just wired different, I guess. Eli's been here 5 weeks now, learning the fence lines, the equipment, the rhythm of this place. He won't stay forever. He's got a life in Indianapolis, friends, a career on hold. But he knows now what he's protecting. He knows the difference between a job and a legacy. That's enough. The rosebush has its first buds. Too early to tell if they'll bloom. But Marla says, white roses are stubborn. They come back when they're ready. The fields are planted. Corn, going in on the South 40. Soybeans on the back parcel. The ground was soft and ready, and the planting went smooth. Eli ran the tractor while I walked behind, watching the rows come straight and true. My grandfather would have approved. Some mornings I sit on the porch with my coffee and watch the sun come up over land that's been in my family for 70 years. I think about Robert planting that covenant, not knowing if it would ever matter. I think about Sarah planting that rosebush, roots wrapped in burlap, believing in tomorrow. I think about Eli learning to check fence posts every morning. Vanessa changed her relationship status too. It's complicated. I changed mine too, but not online. I changed it where it matters. On the deed, on the fence line, and in the way I wake up every morning knowing this land is still mine to care for. Not to own, to care for. There's a difference. Spring came, the fence held, the covenant stood, my son came home, and that's all a man can really ask.